GT America, powered by AWS, returns to action this weekend at the unmistakable Circuit of the Americas. The single-driver multi-class racing in this series is reminiscent of SRO America's heritage, as is the 40-minute sprint format. Reigning SRO 3 champion George Kurtz is looking to jumpstart his title defense, but he'll have to contend with legendary drivers like Johnny O'Connell and Memo Gidley if he wants to take his first win of 23, and the GT4 class is as tight and competitive as ever. It's shaping up to be a great race weekend. Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. Amanda Busick is in the pits, and a good crowd on hand to take in sports car racing at the home of the U.S. Grand Prix Circuit of the Americas. Great format in GT America, as we've seen the last few years, Calvin. Mixed class racing, GT3 and GT4. And an interesting grid because qualifying this morning was done in damp conditions.
Yeah, we saw some rain overnight and it was still pretty wet here when we arrived. So that GTA qualifying session, we're seeing lap times probably 10, 12 seconds off what we anticipated in the dry. So it was a jumbled up grid. Great to see Johnny O'Connell on the pole aboard that Ski Autosport Ferrari. So it'll be fun to see if he can hang on to that lead. Now we're getting in normal conditions, and great battle continues in GT4 with Schwester, the championship leader, grabbing the pole there over Jason Bell.
How cool is that? Johnny O'Connell on pole. Boy, where have you heard that before? Track temperature, as you can see, up almost to 40 degrees Celsius. The ambient temperature here in Austin, that's 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 23.8 degrees Celsius, as you see on the screen. Much different, though, than the conditions that we saw this morning. That rain came in overnight, cleaned off the track in a lot of respects, and made for some challenging conditions for drivers in qualifying. But it's a totally different situation here for this race, and as we've talked about, this series, it's all about going as fast as you can. No pit stops. Really don't have much time to sit around and worry about preserving your equipment either. It's a full-on sprint race.
It's full attack mode, and the racing this year has been absolutely sensational. As you take a look at this racetrack here, just shy of 3.5 miles in length, 20 very demanding corners, 3 sectors. The first sector takes you through the middle of the S's, very demanding sets of switchbacks there. Long back straightaway between turn 11 and 12 that finishes sector 2. It's all about straightaway speed there, about 3/4 of a mile length there, and then some tight, twisty stuff to finish off the lap. It's very challenging. Track limits are always a priority here when it comes to COTA.
20 turns, just under 3.5 miles. This track that opened in October of 2012, designed by Tavo Helmond with a little help from a Texan, 1993 World Motorcycle Champion Kevin Schwans, and of course some assistance from Herman Tilke as well. And it's been a big hit. A lot of people around the country, they make a pilgrimage here to watch just about any type of racing, but for a driver to get a chance to race at the home of the home Grand Prix, if you will, in this country. I know there are others now, but this is the permanent circuit that hosts the pinnacle of global motorsport, and to get a chance to race on this circuit is a special thing.
It's really a privilege to be here. It's a wonderful facility. I mean, you talk to the driver, I'll be honest with you, not every driver loves this circuit. I think in low downforce cars, the S's are super, super challenging just to get the car and the tires to hang on through there, but it feels like you're in the big leagues when you arrive here at COTA.
That observation tower stands 251 feet tall. Double helix staircase, if the elevator's not working. It's a trek to get to the top. 419 treks, I'm told, by our crew that made their way up that double helix staircase, I guess, earlier here this weekend. They're braver than I am. I'll take the elevator, thank you very much. And if it's not working, I'll stay firmly on terra firma. But one of the iconic portions of this track, you see that tower, you know immediately where you are.
You are, and I think when you drive this circuit, you realize where you are. There's a lot of real estate out there to use. You can see a lot of great side-by-side action, a lot to do here. If you're here as a fan, take a few laps around the kart circuit. You can see it's pretty busy out there today, but all these teams now getting ready to go. There's Adam Adelson, who's always a factor in these races this year.
And as ever with Adam, you can see the smile under the helmet. This is a man who is loving life. He's loving his step to GT3 racing. Had some good results in GT4, don't get me wrong, but this step to GT3, it's a big one from a performance standpoint. However, it has suited him perfectly.
Oh, it's just been seamless. I mean, he just seems to be stronger than he was in the GT4 car, so it's a good fit. He's got Wright Motorsports preparing that car. It's the older version of the Porsche 911, but nonetheless, it's really, really quick around this circuit. Seems to be able to use the curbs quite well through the S's, and that could be a big factor to lap time as well.
This season got started for this championship all the way back at the beginning of March on the streets of St. Petersburg. From there, the trip out west to Sonoma, last time out near New Orleans at NOLA Motorsports Park. Now here to Circuit of the Americas, and I think it's safe to say it's hard to draw a line between any of those circuits. They're a unique challenge.
They really are, and when we get back to St. Peter's, that man who rebounded nicely after a big crash there and grabbed the first win of the year, Jason Daskalos, he's still in the mix for the championship. And but lots to look for. Memo Gidley's been on a tear, won 4 of the 6 rounds so far with the championship lead, some 36 points over his nearest pursuer right now.
And that is Jason Daskalos, who starts all the way back in 8th today. We told you it was a mixed-up grid. Same for Memo Gidley. He starts back in 4th. That's further back in the pack than he has been in some time, and that's the points leader right there. Memo Gidley, longtime open-wheel driver, sports car driver extraordinaire, and having a career renaissance this season in GT America powered by AWS. The front row, though, Johnny O'Connell, a legend, 4-time champion of this series, really needs no introduction, and he'll have the reigning champion, George Kurtz, next to him, and I think it would be fair to point out that this has not been a great start to the year for George as the reigning champion yet to get to victory lane in this series.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot more Mercedes, so the championship in the GT3 class is dominated by the Mercedes, and there's some really good pedalers behind the wheels of those cars as well, and I think there's been potential for a win. I mean, he got a little bit lucky at St. Petersburg, got wrapped up in an incident in race 1, didn't get a lap time, so he's at the back of the grid for race 2. Otherwise, he could have had a solid run there. But George is racing a lot. He's very much in his rhythm right now. He's on top of his game. And he's going to have more downforce than that Mercedes. His car should be stronger around this circuit than Johnny O'Connell's Ferrari, but I expect that Ferrari maybe to be pretty strong on the straightaways.
It's amazing. We have racing in Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS, the newest of the new from Maranello, that Ferrari 296. This isn't going back 1 generation with Johnny O'Connell's Ferrari. It's not even going back 2 generations. This is
appropriate for Johnny then, right?
Well, you said it, not me, Johnny. That was Calvin Fish, not Ryan Marine. But he's in the Ferrari 458 Italia. Long in the tooth, but clearly still has some power.
The Ferrari, you mean?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, again, Calvin Fish.
Yeah. No, I agree on all fronts.
And you can see it there at the front of the grid. It's a great-looking car. It's a great-sounding car. The newest Ferraris have been turbocharged. This one is still naturally aspirated. It's got a great sound to it.
Yeah, there's really a cacophony of sounds here with all the different manufacturers involved in this championship. Now we're looking at some of the GT4 machinery. That's Rob Holland, who's had a pretty solid start to the year as well.
He has 5th in points, but did not run those 2 races on the streets of St. Petersburg. In the 4 races he has contested, he's been on the podium 3 times, was on pole for the 1 race he was not on the podium for, ultimately was not able to finish that race, but doing a nice job as ever. It seems like he's always in the mix in this series. Was in contention to go for the title in the first year of GT America a few years back. Was in the hunt again last year. Ultimately finished 5th in points with a win and 2 podiums, and is off to a strong start for his own Rotec Racing team. Oh, that was a good sound. You could hear the engines are fired. And some prime real estate available for spectating. I went up there yesterday. This bridge goes over the S's. Great view of a really high-speed, high-commitment section of the track.
Wow, that is a great view. I didn't realize they'd allow you to stay up there during the race, so that's pretty cool.
Well, if I wasn't supposed to be there, I guess the secret is out.
Keep walking backwards and forwards.
That's right.
Your traverse.
That's right. Well, it was a great view for the time I was up there, at least yesterday. This is a good view, too, as the grid makes its way out onto the track for the formation laps. No tire warmers in this championship, so these will be important laps to get the car prepped and ready to go for the start of today's race.
Yeah, and as you said, conditions very different to qualifying, but everyone got solid practice runs in over the course of Thursday and Friday here, so it's kind of a little bit of a reset. But, you know, track position is sometimes king in terms of the results, so Johnny O'Connell has that pole position, but I think he's going to be hanging on here with a lot of really fast cars behind him.
Yeah, that's the plan for sure. Here's another storyline in the blue Audi that's coming through the picture. This is series veteran James Sofronis making his 350th start in the series now known as SRO America.
Amazing. Just really been just a great supporter of the championship. Won a lot of championships along the way, but just he's all about his customers first. But when he has an opportunity, he loves to get back behind the wheel, and he hasn't lost announcer speed. So it's fun to see, and his family supports it in a big way as well.
Those starts, by the way, date back to 1994, where he made a start at what was known at the time as the SCACA World Challenge Series Super Production class at Road America for the National Wheels and Tires team, and he was driving something called an Oldsmobile Achieva. I couldn't even tell you what that looked like.
That should be his middle name now.
That's right.
Achieva.
James Safrone is certainly one of the greats in this series history, and to your point, has not slowed down. Won championships in GT4 in 2017 and 2018. Was run races throughout the course of his career, and is back on the grid here once again today. Just listen to that soundtrack. Different sounds, different sights. That's what makes sports car racing so much fun. Again, looking at Johnny O'Connell's Ski Autosports, the team. Great little outfit, a lot of experience in historic racing. That's how Johnny got hooked up with them, actually. Ran a historic 24 Hours of Daytona for them in the past.
The car, not the driver.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And
I'll stop, Johnny. I'm sorry.
we kid because we care. But certainly a great champion, a veteran, and when given the opportunity in adverse conditions today, he took full advantage.
He did, and that's where the experience will really play. He saw that there was an opportunity there to get a great grid position, and executed, and he'll lead the field to green. He's excited about this opportunity as well. I mean, Phil Creighton kind of leads the team there, and Rosella, the engineer, is just dynamic. She can really pull the last few ounces of speed out.
Here is the starting grid for today's race. We got George Kurtz and Johnny O'Connell on the front row. Johnny O getting that first pole position of the season. Anthony Bartone, the impressive rookie. He'll have the points leader, Mamo Gidley, alongside. Driver change for the MRS racing team. It is Peter Piesevich who starts that car here this weekend in the 5th spot. James Safronis, the veteran, as we talked about, making his 350th start, will start in the 6th position. Then going back to the 4th row of SRO 3, Adam Adelson and Jason Daskalos. Daskalos second in points. Adelson a little further down than you would expect based on his pace. Going back to the 5th row, Todd Treffert and Andy Wilczak starting 9th and 10th in a Mercedes and a Porsche respectively. Back to the 6th row, and Mark Austin making his season debut, native of nearby Buda, Texas, so racing very much on home soil. Great to have him in the field. GT4 on the pole, it'll be Ross Schwest, the reigning champion. His sparring mate from last year, Jason Bell, will start alongside in 2nd. Those two have factored into the front frequently this season. Paul Keebler, great qualifying performance. The same could be said for Nick Shanny. They will start 3rd and 4th in an Aston and a Toyota, respectively. Elias Sabo and Gray Newell make up row number 9. Then dropping back to the 10th row, that's where you find John Roberts making his season debut up against another veteran in Tony Gaples in the lone Chevy Camaro. Row number 11, Rob Holland has some work to do today. Jay Logan back for GMG, starting in the 24th overall spot. And Todd Coleman will not make the start here today, but was on the initial entry list for this race. So that's how they'll line up for the first of 2 races this weekend for GT America, powered by AWS. Great field, interesting mix, and again, really not sure you could take a whole lot based on that qualifying order simply because that happened in damp conditions.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers and cars out of order here, so there should be some feisty action going on. Look for that 3rd row of the grid to try and make some moves there in the GT4 ranks, with Elias Sabo and Greg Newell have shown a lot of speed here this year. So I think Keebler and Shanny may come under attack here pretty early, and the 2 championship protagonists, really, Ross West and Jason Bell, they seem to be connected at the hip every single weekend.
They do, and they've treated us to some good battles. We've seen some other interlopers in the mix, too. Elias Sabo winning the last time out at race 2 at NOLA. Certainly someone who's capable of running there at the sharp end. And again, great qualifying effort. You look at row 2 for GT4, Nick Shanny and Paul Keebler, easily their best qualifying results of the year.
Yeah, and that's a whole different level. I spoke to Nick Shanny yesterday about the progress of that team. He's so excited. He said, I just wish I'd started 40 years ago when Terry Borchella did. But he said, making up for lost time, learning a lot. They're having a great run in GT4 America as well. So Great season for them with that Toyota, and he's loving that new Evo kit with that Supra. It's really giving him a lot more comfort behind the wheel of that machine.
That's right, a lot of effort made by Toyota Gazoo Racing to improve driver comfort in that evolution of the Supra platform. Speaking of Supras, it is a Toyota GR Supra safety car at the front of the field. The lights are out, which means we're about to go green. Johnny O'Connell on the pole, the reigning series champion. George Kurtz, points leader in Fanatec GT, starts alongside, coming into turn number 12, looking for the Rover pole sitter, that is, to enter the VP acceleration zone. Two distinct starts for the two different classes. We look for the green flag. Waiting. Tom Hansing has it in hand, and now he displays it to the front of the field. O'Connell gets the jump. Kurt slots in line. Adelson looks like he wants to be a big mover at the back, and Bartone making a lunge up the inside. That's a bid for second.
Yeah, that was really close there. He managed to woe it down just in time to knock into the rear end of George Kurtz. Comes out of the corner in P3. Great start for our pole sitter.
GT4 start. We go green for the second class in the championship. Schwest now going defensive. That's the red Aston to the right side of the screen. Jason Bell had an issue yesterday, but that car repaired. He's back out on track. Gaples gets shoved a bit wide there by Shandy, or maybe he went there because he saw a chance to go around the outside and grab a couple of spots. Meanwhile, at the very front, it's O'Connell leading Kurtz and Bartone.
Yeah, great start there by Tony Gaples, getting that Chevy Camaro around the outside, but up front, Kurtz starting to settle in now, starting to put the heat on Johnny O for the lead.
George Kurtz in that CrowdStrike liveried Mercedes. O'Connell feeling the pressure, guards that inside line. Kurtz can't plot a path past this time. Bartone has, it looks like that's Daskalos behind him. Good start there from Jason.
It looks like Gidley, our championship leader, may have dropped the spot possibly, but we'll wait for everyone to settle in. This is a telling story here down that back stretch. Looks like the Ferrari's able to eke out a little bit of a gap. Here comes James Sofronis in that blue Audi, trying to make a move there on Mamo Gidley. Goes to the outside in turn 12, may make it stick.
In front of them, Daskalos took the third spot away, so he is up 5 spots on this lap, Calvin. Started back in P8, he now runs in podium contention.
Yeah, he gets up on the wheel early here. He may have felt he was out of position a little bit from his qualifying spot this morning as well, so good attack mode by him, but look at James Sofronis here on the attack.
Yeah, James also on the move, started 6th, so he's up a couple of spots as well. Slots right in. That's that second generation Evo on that Audi as well. Haven't seen that much in North America since it was released. Oh, a little contact there. That's Logan and Gaples. Gray Newell in the Aston also in the mix.
Yeah, trying to coexist there through 2 and 14. A little bit of elbows out, some argy-bargy early in this race.
This is a little further back in the field. Keebler leads this battle pack. Right behind him, Rob Holland. He's made some gains here in the early stages, but after one lap, O'Connell leads, but he slips wide. That opens the door. George Kurtz looking to go on the attack now.
Yeah, and I think this is where it's going to play out. Just the handling of that Mercedes should be a little bit stronger than that older generation Ferrari, but right now Johnny O's just got to try and hit his marks, make that Ferrari as wide as possible, and then use the launch off of that turn 11 corner and try and stretch it a little bit and take the pressure off. But Kurtz is looking, he is probing, he wants to get that track position early.
Just looking for a weakness in that defense from Johnny O'Connell. Johnny drops a wheel there on the inside. You can see the dust spray up from his right side tires. That won't distract George Kurtz coming under the bridge through this downhill plunge and now making the run to the hairpin turn 11.
Yeah, and that downforce not only plays out through the corners, but also into these braking zones as well. So right now, Johnny's just thinking, okay, I'm in a rhythm, got to protect my tires as well. The other thing with downforce is it'll give you that grip and you're not going to slide the tire as much. Johnny's going to fight that a little bit deeper into the run as well.
Great shot, great sounds. The soundtrack of GT3 racing, past and present, all encapsulated in the SRO3 class.
Sofronis looks tough. He looks like he's got some speed in that Audi, putting the pressure on Bartone now for P4. What a season Anthony Bartone is putting together. Didn't start driving a car until 2 years ago, and under the tutelage of Andy Pilgrim, who he shares a car with in Fanatec GT. Just a great start to this championship season.
You look at his bloodlines, there's no doubt he's someone who's going to want to go fast. Drag racing very much in the blood of the Bartone family. Bartone Brothers Racing still very active in the NHRA. But it's road racing that drew young Anthony's attention. And and he has been a quick study with a lot of help from Andy Pilgrim.
He's a natural. He's just got great speed, and it's all about just learning racecraft right now.
Kurtz now with the lead. O'Connell has dropped off of his rear wing and is coming under pressure from Daskalos. That last lap from Kurtz making the pass. Now a 1.1 second advantage. Here comes Adelson looking up the inside of Memo Gidley, who has not had the start to this race that I anticipated.
No, our championship leader, we thought he'd be moving forward. Right now he's backpedaling a little bit. He's got to regroup here. A lot of time to play with, but you've got a lot of really feisty competitors around you, including Adam Adelson.
I think we're going to have some impatient drivers stuck in this pack because the cork in the bottle right now is Johnny O'Connell, the pole sitter in those wet conditions. Dried out now, and I'm not sure that Ferrari 458 Italia quite has the same pace of some of this cutting-edge modern GT3 machinery behind him. A couple of Evo spec Mercedes AMGs right there in tow, and then the latest of the late as far as Audi is concerned, running right behind with James Sofronis. Let's hear more about Memo Gidley's early struggles. Amanda Busick has more from the pits.
Well, I was talking to him prior to the race, and what he was saying is that, sure, you can put a lap together here, but it's basically more about the consistency in each lap, and can you back that up each time? I was talking to him about qualifying and was really happy with the team's decisions to go out on wet tires. You guys have talked about how these grids have been shuffled up, and that was straight on that strategy of whether you go out on wet or slick tires. Jason Daskalos was one of those teams that went out on slick tires, but also showing what he can do here early in the race.
Appreciate that, Amanda. You just saw James Sofronis come through and grab third spot from Anthony Bartone. James really late on the brakes, and if you remember back in St. Pete, I think the brakes might have been giving him some trouble with that car, but they clearly got that well sorted this late in the season.
Yeah, they really try to work with the cooling of those brakes, so it seems like they're working very well here. Made a nice move, but here comes Daskalos on Johnny O. That is a brave move. It's too late. That was just really a bit too heavy-handed there by Jason, unfortunately, and Adelson's involved as well with a quick spin.
Yeah, he saw that spinning Ferrari, took evasive action, and that's going to cost Adam dearly. Certainly cost Johnny O'Connell as well. It drops him to the back of the SRO 3 field. Let's look at it one more time. Daskalos very aggressive.
Big commitment there, and I think Johnny may have just lost him with that rear-facing camera in the side view mirrors. I'm not sure if the older generation Ferrari even has that rear-facing camera, so he just lost him in his peripheral, but a little bit too much aggression there, I feel.
Plenty of aggression here. Two Mercedes going at it now. It's Daskalos and Bartone. They nearly came to blows as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Jason would have even been able to finish that deal off, even if it got to the inside, because you're just going to wipe Johnny out by the time you get to the apex. So, Stewart's will look at that one. Bartone's now on the attack, looking for opportunity.
This is all great for the leader, George Kurtz, who has the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race in the CrowdStrike car, leads by nearly 5 seconds over Sofronis. Sofronis has been able to build a gap now over this battle, which now rages for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Daskalos, Bartone, and Todd Treffert giving the sister car to this car a nice run. The CRP Racing duo doing a very nice job.
Yeah, he's really starting to find his feet here. Has a lot of experience in HSR, historic racing, but not so much at this pro level.
Here's the lead in GT4. Jason Bell took it away from the pole sitter Ross Schwest on the opening lap. Elias Sabo continues to have a strong run. He is in 3rd, so it's a trio of Astons. 1, 2, 3. Not the first time we've said that this year.
Well, we talk about GT3 being dominated by the Mercedes, and GT4 is all about the Aston Martin. As you said, they hold the podium positions right now, being chased by Rob Holland, driving the Porsche, the 099. So Jason Bell at championship is tight coming in here. Two of these guys separated by just 5 points. Schwest 2 wins and 2 podiums on the season, so he's had a solid start and really broke through at Indy last year with 3 victories on the weekend, with he and Aaron Balvalado also taking the win in GT4 America.
That's right, and that really helped catapult Ross to the championship, and it was really tight. We're talking about 5 points between these two here at this stage of the season, still fairly early. That title was decided by 6 points last year.
Yeah, and Jason is just, he lives and breathes it. I mean, he's going to be pulling double duty here this weekend. It's going to be exciting to see he and Michael Cooper sharing a car together a bit later this afternoon.
Sofronis, well, I might have spoken too soon. I thought he was going to pull away, but that's not been the case at all. Daskalos is getting closer now.
I think James just got around Daskalos, so he's on the attack now, going to try and chase down George Kurtz.
haven't seen anything from race control about that contact between Daskalos and O'Connell. O'Connell now runs back in 6th, 12 seconds behind the race leader, though.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I love the aggressive nature that Jason has in terms of going for it, and it was a wonderful move if you could pull it off, but it was so sketchy in there. I mean, ultimately, if they got a bit deeper into the corner, where was Johnny O going to go? And Jason was going to be on a trajectory which would just wipe out his path anyway.
Speculate that something must be amiss for Memo Gidley, because he has dropped down the order in the GT4 field now in his SRO 3 car. So the points leader, who has yet to finish off the podium this season, Calvin, hitting strife here in race 1 of the weekend.
Yeah, and that's good news for someone like George Kersey, who's trying to get back into this championship gain. So it would be a big points gain delta for George if he can pull off the victory and Memo continues to struggle.
Here's the car running by its lonesome. Let's listen. Can pick up any signs of an issue. Seems healthy. Very strange.
If he was in the pit lane or not, but his last lap was some 45 seconds slower than the rest of the field, so I'm not sure if he had to do a stop and a reset out on the circuit, but lost a lot of ground, obviously.
Report from Amanda in the pits that there is some bodywork damage to Johnny O'Connell's car after that contact, but the team has elected to keep him out on the racetrack. Battle brewing here in GT4. This is Paul Keebler and Tony Gaples, a little outside the top 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Battle for 6.
Black Dog Speed Shop Camaro. It's a little extra firepower in the engineering staff this weekend. Tim Coffeen, who's been around this game a long time, helped work on Indy cars for the likes of Nigel Mansell, Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti. Here helping out. I think he's been with that team in the past, but my understanding is this is a one-weekend loan, and he's here to help out.
Yeah, he and Ray Sorensen were obviously teammates there back in the Carl Haas and the IndyCar days. And they've also got Eric Miller, who's joined Black Dog as a race engineer with Pratt & Miller Engineering.
That's right. Great little team based in the Chicago area. Back to SRO 3 we go, though. Sofronis, Daskalos, Bartone, and Treffert. The 4 cars on the screen at the moment. Daskalos and Treffert, both out of the CRP Racing stable, now based out of Sarasota, Florida. And as they did at NOLA in the last race weekend, they got a little help on the test day by plugging in veteran Kenton Cook to help give them some engineering direction and setup direction on those cars. And Nick Short, the team owner, absolutely raved about the feedback that Kenton has been able to provide them.
Well, it takes away the question marks. I mean, when you're not sharing a car with someone, a single driver format, obviously, in GT America, you don't have that sounding board. In GT4 and Fanatec GT, you can have an AM driver who's kind of leaning on the pro, who's sharing the car possibly, to give them that, yeah, the car is good, or we need to search for some speed in these areas. So I think it's really smart by Nick Short and the CRP group to bring in someone who's so accomplished now. Kenton Cook is an amazing talent. He's got great skills in terms of the technical department as well, in terms of reading the car and knowing what it needs, and that just really gets you on the right track for the rest of the weekend.
This battle here, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, is quite a ways behind our overall leader, George Kurtz. 7.7 seconds the gap at the stripe. Kurtz has turned some really fast laps.
He has. His best lap is over a second quicker than James Sofronis, who's given chase, but right now they're kind of matching lap time, so George is probably just trying to manage his tires a little bit in case there's any sort of restart here before we get to the checkered flag this afternoon.
He's got so much help on his pit box. Jeff Brown is here this weekend doing some work. Bill Riley, of course, the Riley Motorsports team, and Colin Brown, his co-driver in Fanatec GT. Such a great resource for George, as he has been for many years. Well, we talked about the fact Memo Gidley has dropped down the order. Let's hear more about his struggles with Amanda.
When talking to the team quickly, I asked why Memo might be off pace a little bit, and they said they're just struggling with some setup issues this weekend, and said, well, I guess we can't be good all the time, but as a driver, Cal Ryan, when you're in that position, how do you stay focused in this race with issues with handling or the car?
Well, I think you just have to maximize the points that are available. You can't overdrive the car and not finish, so that'll be the main task here, is to get to that 50% mark, score some points. But he had a major issue on one lap there, Amanda. He lost about 40 seconds to the lead pack, so something technically was amiss, so he had to do a reset on the computer. But you know, Memo's pretty poised. I mean, he doesn't panic. He's got the years of experience to just try and understand what's going on. They're all double-header weekends, so they'll go to work tonight. There's a lot of experience in that group there to try and straighten things back out again for tomorrow.
Gable's able to take 6th in GT4 away from Keebler a few moments ago. Quickly back, though, to Gidley. This is different than it was last year, where in a bad day, as long as you make it to 50%, you're going to score points. Not so much this year. There are 11 cars entered in SRO 3. Right now, Gidley is 11th. We only pay points down to 10th. So he's got 25 minutes to try and rebound and salvage something. As we chronicled earlier, these championships can come down to just a handful of points at the end of the year.
Yeah, and if you think about George Kurtz, who comes into this race, what is it, 31, 64 points behind. Well, he can suddenly cut 25 points out of that by winning this race and maybe having a 0-point score.
Jason Bell in control in GT4. Not so much, though, for Ross Schwest. Elias Sabo is right there stalking the New Orleans native. Sabo peeks out, pops back in line. Tell you what, he was one of many drivers, Elias Sabo that is, that I spoke with yesterday that was very happy. The forecast for this weekend was not what it was yesterday, where it was hot and humid. He was just telling me how much energy it saps out of you. But much cooler here today, and Elias Sabo looking fresh behind the wheel.
Yeah, he's really come such a long way over the last 12 months. He's under the tutelage of Andy Lee, who co-drives with him in GT4 America. Steve Costello's the team manager there at Flying Lizard, so they're a real quality group. And they had to work hard yesterday on Jason Bell's car. He had a shock absorber. His shock explode on him going through the high-speed S's.
Okay.
Managed to keep it out of the guardrail, but for that team to rebound literally with the shock absorber, no pun intended, is really cool.
I saw that car come back on a flatbed, and it was sitting on its right rear.
Yeah, it just snapped off the top eye hole
interesting.
on the shock.
Huh. Not sure you've heard of that one before. Bell right now controlling the GT4 field. 2.1 seconds, the difference between where he runs and then these two Astons with Schwest and Sabo. Sabo was 4th in points last year, won a race at one point, finished on the podium 8 times. He's already matched that win total here this year and seems to be driving at a very high level for the Flying Lizard team.
Yeah, and his biggest cheerleader right now is going to be his teammate, Jason Bell. He'd love to see that orange machine in his rearview mirrors versus Ross Schwest, who has the championship lead.
That's true, because it's a change of team this year for Jason Bell, switching over to the Flying Lizard camp, and something new this weekend. He will be running Pirelli GT4 America, the 2-driver GT4 format, a little bit later on with his driver coach for this season, Michael Cooper. Michael was really quick in qualifying for race 2 tomorrow, so that could be a car to watch when we go Pirelli GT4 America racing later today.
Yeah, great to see Michael back rather than just being on a radio coaching some of these drivers in the championship. So made his mark immediately, top one of the practice session. I think he qualified P3
That's what I'm
for the
yeah.
race, so they're going to be in the mix.
Oh, here's the move. Sabo very late. It's going to be an acute angle as well. Gets alongside, and somehow they stay off each other, mostly at least.
Gidley trying to stay out of the way of this little battle here as he's trying to survive.
Yeah, this is the tough part of multi-class racing. You have to pick and choose your spots. How much do you interfere with the other class battles? If you cut them a break now, maybe they cut you a break when you're having a better day down the road.
It's actually nicely managed by Elias Sabo. So he got the draft, he tucked out to the inside, but then you're on the dirty part of the racetrack, so the car's not slowing down as efficiently as the driver you're trying to pass on the rubbered-in line. So he managed that very well. Let's see if there's a little touch here right at the exit. No, they kept it clean. Saw the little wiggle there as we could see it heads on, but I thought that may have been a touch from Elias, but it was not.
Great respect from two drivers that have raced wheel to wheel quite a bit over the last few seasons.
This racing is so fun if you just give yourself that little bit of breathing room.
Yeah.
You know, such a fine line between the two, or it goes gets ugly.
But there's so much value in having experience dueling with someone over the years, right? You had to know their habits. You know how they're going to race you and vice versa. We saw that on display.
Yeah, and And I think just the graduation as a driver for Elias Sabo, I mean, in years past, you get a move like that, you panic a little bit as we see this battle continue between Bartone and Daskalos for the final podium spot.
And all of this is happening well in arrears of the overall leader, George Kurtz, who continues to have this under control. But yeah, this fight has been fantastic from the opening lap. Sofronis in the Audi, then the trio of Mercedes, 2 from CRP Racing, 1 from the Bartone Brothers Racing with Real Time Racing Team. The sandwich, the meat and the sandwich, if you will, with the 2 CRP cars on either side. Todd Treffert, we talked about him earlier, with a lot of historic racing experience. And Nick Short, the team owner, told me early in the year, he's going to be fast. What he needs to do is learn how this wheel-to-wheel racing works. Here's Adam Adelson on the recovery from his spin earlier, able to make a pass on Andy Wilczok for 7th.
Yeah, he got wrapped up in that move that Daskalos was trying to put on Johnny O. So with Andy Wilczok here this weekend, he said, you know what, I don't quite have the pace that I used to have. He said, with this new generation car, he said, I'm not quite as home with it. And I said, there's a Mercedes under the tent here. I said, you ever thought about jumping behind the wheel of that? All of the AM drivers really kind of like the comfort factor that gives. He said, nah, I'm a Porsche guy. I'm going to stick with it.
And I love the classic Flying Lizard livery on a 911.
Yeah.
It looks right at home. Here's the car that's been in command from the start of this race. George Kurtz, not on pole, but it didn't take him too long. I believe it was just the 2nd lap, and he had taken the lead away from Johnny O'Connell. Here's Treffert, okay.
Ooh, little touch.
Yep. That's something you would not do in a historics race.
Well, I think it's just a different way of going about racing,
sure.
right? It's you respect each other to the point you give each other plenty of breathing room, but this is a different level. It's a bit more cutthroat here to try and make a move, and we sort of got a little bit too close there, but no harm, no foul. They both continue.
Part of the evolution for Todd as he transitions to this style of racing, modern equipment, sprint race format.
Love that corner there, that triple apexer, and plunges down the hill. A lot of elevation change there.
Puts a big load in the Pirellis.
It really does. It's hard for the platform to maintain its grip and balance through that whole corner, particularly later in the run.
Sofronis might have been balked at corner exit there. That could open the door for Daskalos. We know he's going to be aggressive. Here he comes, taking a peek up the inside. Sofronis in the Audi, Daskalos in the Mercedes. Daskalos is through for 3rd.
Beautifully judged. Well done. Didn't overdrive it, just kept James right at bay there, off to your flank. That's what it's all about when you get in that position. You don't need to blow by that car by a car length, just hold him out there, hold him at bay.
Daskalos, over the years, we've seen it. If he can smell blood in the water, he's going to be really, really aggressive, and it paid off. That's how he got the win at St. Pete earlier this year. Reading traffic, aggressive but decisive, making his way through that traffic.
Wow, what a move. He timed that beautifully on Bartone there and took advantage and slices through for position.
Oh, that was outstanding. A little bit further back, that was for 4th. Treffert up to 4th. That bumps Bartone back to 5th.
Yeah, I think that's going to get Anthony's attention. He's got to get back up the wheel. See Treffert there out of bounds. He'll get a warning for that one.
And he's one of the pitfalls sometimes, trying to officiate it in the circuit. Oh, problems here for Fast Track Racing car, and that's Roberts making his debut. His son is racing in the touring cars here this weekend for the Fast Track Racing team. Not sure what caused this.
It's towards the end of the S's there.
John Roberts, I believe.
Maybe Austin.
Could have been. In any event, we look back in here on the battle for 2nd. Schwest and Sabo, they've been in this duel for most of this race. We're past the halfway mark now, 16 minutes and 19 seconds to go.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was Roberts, the 11. We got a 0-11 in the 11, so.
Pretty sure that's right. I know Roberts was in that camp.
Yeah.
Someone will tell us if we're wrong.
Yeah. GT4 cars, so.
Exactly.
That should make the process a little easier.
Here is the overall leader who also holds the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race, George Kurtz. That means he'll be the pole man for tomorrow's race. I expect that will hold up. Tire wear, maybe not as significant here as at, say, Sonoma, for instance, but it is significant enough that 35 minutes, make that 25 minutes into this race, you're probably not going to see too many fast laps set.
Yeah, the track is rubbering in. Oh, that was a little twitch there. Trevor almost lost the rear end just trying to get aggressive back to power there. So as we were watching James Sofrona's little twitch there from the 41 machine. Yeah, just getting back to lap times, you know, as you get deeper into this race, the car's getting lighter as you burn fuel off, so a lighter race car is a faster race car, but at the same time, you're working against the curve of prior performance at the same moment.
Either way, the incident between Daskalos and O'Connell was reviewed. No further action taken is the verdict that has been handed down.
Yeah. I just think, where was he going to go with it? I mean, there was such commitment to the inside. I think you'd just driven through the corner, would not have been able to maintain the line, and Johnny would have had nowhere to go, even if it happened a little bit later in the sequence.
Might have just seen Trefford slip wide. That might open the door for a pass a little further back. Meanwhile, let's look at this. Oh, that's Elias Sabo looping it from third in GT4, and that's right in front of the overall leader.
It was. He was just looking ahead. I think he's just trying to get the power down a little bit earlier and just kept his hands tight there in a quick spin. Not sure he even lost a position, did he?
No, the saving grace is he had a ton of time in hand over Rob Holland. We did see Rob coming through the shot, so Rob is there now, not too far behind. The fight for the final podium position in GT4.
Overlap happening now between the much faster, of course, GT3 machines. Holland in the middle of the road. Traffic goes to the inside. He's got to be thinking about a podium run here. He's got great pace, and Sofrona's is not that far ahead, as you can see.
Wouldn't that be something?
It's so fun to see these drivers come into the championships and evolve and develop and get the speed and then develop the racecraft to get the big points.
Tough place to catch the traffic there.
He's super committed through there.
Yep.
It's so inviting, right? So you got these wide expanses, and the other thing, when you go completely offline, the driver who's defending loses sight of you momentarily.
This is shaping up to be the best result of the season for Todd Trefford, regardless of what happens in this battle. Best finish so far, 5th in race 1 at NOLA Motorsports Park, has a pair of 6ths from Sonoma. Did not contest the races at St. Pete. Right now runs 4th, but that first podium is within reach.
Yeah, it's a really solid day, and he's just going to gain confidence from this one. And again, you need a good, well-balanced car, and I think, as we talked about earlier with Nick Short bringing in Ken and Cook to set these cars up a little bit earlier in this weekend, is really paying dividends.
And Nick told me Todd is very analytical about his approach. He's coming along very quickly in his development, racing GT3 for the first time. And having that data from Ken and Cook, that baseline data that's really helped him. And Jason Daskalos, he said, you know, I think he's so quick. He wants to be as quick as the Memo Gidleys of the world and the Johnny O'Connells of the world. Maybe doesn't have that same level of experience. But on his day, we've seen it. Jason Daskalos can run with anybody.
Yeah. No, he's feisty. I like the way he goes about his business.
Sofrona's to the inside of Schwest, second place car in GT4, 6 seconds behind the race leader, Jason Bell, who has driven a controlling race. Oh, that was deep on the brakes there from Trefford. He nearly got into the back of the Audi.
He just plowed it down the inside to clear that GT4 traffic, and must have been thinking, oh, could grab a position here as well.
There's so many ways you could approach that entry to turn 1. Was it Ziad Gondor maybe a few years ago took this really aggressive early turn in, and somehow he was making it work, but it was so different than what anybody else was doing.
Well, this racetrack all around, for that matter, particularly through the S's, we see some very innovative lines through here, just trying to be efficient with it, and that's where the data can really come into play when you start to play with that, not so much in the race, but certainly in practice sessions is just really working the line and then analyzing the data in detail as to what line is the more efficient, which line is more maybe easier on the tires, and doesn't give you such big tire deck situations.
Adelson continuing to rebound. Made the pass on Will Zonk a little while ago, but Andy has not gone quietly into the night, has he? He's done a great job staying in the tire tracks of Adam Adelson.
He really has, and he enjoys these race weekends. His wife is a big supporter. She likes to travel with him and enjoy the local area early in the weekend, but she's always here for his races, as I understand it, so she supports his racing in a big way, and that's so important.
He ran a partial schedule a couple years ago in 2021. It was actually here at COTA. It was his return. He had run some races in the series in years past, had gone and run it in some more amateur-oriented series where he won quite a bit. And he said to me back in 21 when he came here, man, I am a lot slower than I thought, but I am having a ton of fun because I know that when I get a good result, I've really earned something.
Yeah, he loves the challenge. I mean, he's not just out trophy hunting. He wants the challenge. He loves the challenge that the Porsche creates. There may be other platforms out there that may be a little bit easier to drive, but he loves Porsches. He loves the branding with the Flying Lizard and everything that brings with their history with the Porsche brand over the years. So he said, no, I'm gonna stick with it. He said, I'm just gonna keep working on my craft. But he said, yeah, I must admit, with this new generation Porsche, it doesn't quite suit me as well. There's a lot more electronics, and you just don't feel like you're up on the wheel as much. And there's more, I think it's more of a numbing feel in terms of the feedback that Andy's looking for to be how I'd analyze it.
It's really interesting. You think, all right, I've got more sophisticated traction control I can lean on. I have more competent ABS to help me out. That can only make me go faster, but maybe you do lose some of the sensation. Treffert stalking James Sofronis. James is feeling the heat too.
He really is. Donna's pretty aggressive with his lines. I mean, they're not subtle moves, and that kind, when you're in front trying to defend, trying to figure out where to place the race car, that can get you off your game a little bit.
And you could see he was eager to put that loud pedal down. He kicked the rear end of that car out on the exit to 11. It's given him a nice run down the back straightaway, nearly 3/4 of a mile in length. Treffert bobbing and weaving inside and out, plotting his course, but can't get by Sofronis, at least not this time.
That was nicely done. He sort of like feinted to the right-hand side and then swept back across the bow there and tried to get it to the inside. But James Scott, as we said, 350 starts. I'm sure he's seen it all.
James probably is not going to fall for the dummy move. Todd tried to sell it. Asking price wasn't quite right.
Sofronis really used a lot of road there. That compromise you set up here, just he's got enough change of direction with that Audi to make it work. That's pretty impressive that you be that wide through 18 and still stay in line and get it back to power for 19.
And Mercedes looks like a handful on corner exit, though, as he's trying to put that power down. That was an even more lurid slide than we saw.
I think he just needs to open up his hands a little bit. It seems like he's just pinching the exit a little bit. I think if he lets it flow a little bit, he may be able to maintain that speed.
And look who's entered the chat. Anthony Bartone, he's right back in this picture.
I had a feeling he was going to try and respond. I mean, he's a pretty determined individual. I spent a little bit of time with him recently, and he's a fun character, loving what he's doing, just really appreciates the tutelage that Andy Pilgrim has provided in terms of Andy basically, moving his life to Miami and being right there as a neighbor to Anthony and training with him. Anthony's lost a ton of weight over the last 12 months in terms of trying to tick every single box of being a pro race car driver.
It's amazing because Andy has been in Bowling Green, Kentucky for probably as long as he ever was in England, right? But he's relocated down to Florida, like you said, helping young Anthony along, and his ascent through the ranks has been something to watch.
There's that long run. 73 miles from apex to apex between 11 and 12. Bit of a roller coaster ride as well.
Oh, here he
comes.
There.
He's controlling it, but as I say, he's dynamic in his moves. Do you know what I mean? Nothing subtle. It's just suddenly surprise moves, but not overcommitting at the same time.
Maybe tough position for Sofronis to be in too. As much experience as he has, he's not battled with Todd hardly at all. So he's still learning the intricacies of this particular opponent. Johnny O'Connell is creeping back into this picture too. Just watch the back of the shot. That Ferrari is closer than it was 1 lap ago, but time is running out. Under 6 minutes to go, just a couple more laps. Depending on the clock and where the overall leader is.
Johnny's getting a little bit closer. It just seems that the ultimate pace of the Ferrari is not quite there. We talked about it being an older generation car, and it's going to be a bit of a struggle. I think he could have certainly hung on to maybe a top 3 here today, but got turned. Pretty aggressive move, as we've discussed already, by Daskalos, but Stewart saw it as fair play. I think Johnny may have a different viewpoint on that one, but hey, he'll brush it off and get ready for tomorrow.
His old nickname was Johnny Red, right? It wasn't always about the hair color. He could get worked up.
I didn't know he's a wine drinker.
Kurtz leads by 13.5 seconds. Daskalos runs second, 2 seconds ahead of this group. Sofronis fighting to take home a podium here at his 350th start. If he thought there would be any sentimentality, if anyone would roll over and let him have a trophy to celebrate, I think that notion has been dispensed of at this point.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen the end of the story for the battle between the 3 cars we're looking at there, Sofronis, Treffert, and Bartone. I think Bartone has excellent racecraft. I just love the way that he sets up a corner when he's back on the attack.
Bartone has been doing this. Is that just about getting in the mirror of Treffert, that move to the inside? We saw him do it down the front straight too.
Yeah, maybe. Not sure if it's just getting clean air to the front of that Mercedes. It seems sort of sudden. If you're just trying to get clean air, you'd probably run just a different lane, let's call it, down some of these straightaways if heat is an issue. But he's not really close enough to distract Treffert, I think, by making those moves from so far back.
Kurtz through turn number 20. We're about to illustrate just how big of a lead this is. It was over 13 seconds the last time by. Here he comes in the crowd strike by Riley Mercedes down the front straightaway into turn number 1. He's in 1, and we look back there. You find second place, Jason Daskalos. 3 minutes to go. Let's check in once again with Amanda in the pits.
Well, I can't help to go back to St. Pete, and you think of the struggles that George Kurtz had in the season opener. I think he picked up a total of 6 points that weekend. Just kind of a disaster of a weekend on the streets of St. Pete. But as the reigning champ, we're at the 7th race of this season right now. So technically halfway through this season, is there still enough time for this championship? Cal, you were talking about Jason Daskalos earlier. If this race were to finish right now, actually I think he might be the real winner of this race. He's going to gain 18 points on Memo Gidley, and that would bring him up to 115 points in this championship, just 18 points back from Memo. So like you said, he can smell blood in the water, and I would say today is just as successful for Jason as it would be for George Kurtz.
Yeah, he's going to half that championship lead of 36 points if he finishes it. Oh, it's our leader in GT4.
Is it just a spin, or is there something wrong with the car? He gets it refired, but Schwest comes through. The lead has changed in GT4 on what might be the penultimate lap. Let's take a look at this again. That is strange.
Very bizarre.
With a huge lead, it was nearly 9 seconds.
Yeah, I just don't know if there was a technical issue there with the ABS failing or something, but just locked up by himself on the out. You'd typically just release the brake pedal and just run a higher arc there through that runoff room that you have. So that was quite bizarre as to what happened to Jason.
And it hands the lead to the championship leader, Ross Schwest. That has big implications. He goes from a position where he was going to lose the points lead to extending it, at least as they run. The good news for Bell is he was able to rejoin. Still runs in second, but the bad news is here comes Elias Sabo.
Yeah, and it makes me think back to yesterday when they had that shock explode, whether it took out a wheel speed sensor or something, which all of those things work together in terms of making the ABS work correctly.
That's right. That's a good point. White flag for George Kurtz, just 20 turns to go. And he's looking at his first win of the season in GT America, powered by AWS. Now the white flag flies over second, third, fourth, and fifth, as well as sixth, all in the same camera shot here, up the hill for the final time.
Bartone, does have anything up his sleeve here for Treffert? It's like Sofronis has that 2-3 car length gap that may take the pressure off him in this last lap of the race. They're closing in on Daskalos as well. He's only 8/10 of the good coming across the stripe.
Speaking of closing in, that's Rob Holland in the Cayman, looking to stick it around the outside of Sabo, fighting for the final podium position. This is also hampering Sabo's pursuit of Jason Bell, second, third, and fourth in GT4, running behind this man, Ross West.
What a run he's been on.
This would be his third win of the season, only had 2 last year. So at the halfway mark, he's got a chance to surpass that win total from a year ago if he can keep it clean one more time around Circuit of the Americas.
See Jason Bell up into this brake zone again, see if he has any further issues here. He is going to be so frustrated.
Oh, here comes Sabo. Will that compromise his exit? Does it leave him vulnerable to Holland in the Porsche?
Holland gets a run. I'm not sure he can do anything with it at this point of the game. It's going to be the second half of this lap where he's got to look for opportunity.
Sabo back on his giddy up though. He's picking up the pace, closing in. This section is all about the rhythm.
And this is where Jason Bell really needs Michael Cooper in his ear to settle him back down again. Yes, he's lost the lead, and that championship lead is going to be blown out a little bit further, but just settle back down, score some points.
In the meantime, George Kurtz took the lead on lap number 2 and never looked back. George Kurtz through the final turn. He takes the checkered flag first and wins at Circuit of the Americas. The battle is on, though, further back in SRO 3. It looks like Daskalos is going to solidify the second spot, but Sofronis coming under pressure from Treffert, who in turn is being challenged by Bartone. They come to the line, and it's Daskalos second. Sofronis is third, and Bartone takes fourth at the stripe. Margin between them just 32 thousandths of a second.
That was a fun finish right there. I expected some mix up with the results there in that third through fifth, and it certainly happened there.
This is for position as well. Sabo has third, Holland trying to take it away. Who will stand on the podium in GT4? Sabo a little bit wide. Here comes Holland trying to make the outside line stick.
Oh, he's going to really work over Sabo here and try and get that position.
Cuts underneath, hops over the curb. They're still side by side through the stadium. Crosses over. Oh, and contact between the two. They both go around.
That was unintentional. I think Rob just hopped the curb there, lost the front end, and that was enough to bump Elias around.
So actually, Holland did keep it pointed straight, able to drive away from that, but the stewards will surely have something to say. Nothing more to say other than congratulations to this man, Ross West, out of turn 19, now turn number 20. A third win on the season, an unlikely one at that, but he gets it done, extends that points lead over Jason Bell, who comes home in second. Holland will finish third on the road, with Gray Newell right behind. But let's look at this one more time, Calvin.
Yeah, Sabo was doing a really nice job there, but Holland saw the opportunity, ducks down to the inside, and there he just hops over the curb, and it just literally bounces him into the rear end of Sabo and turns him.
I think that's it exactly. Caught that apex curb, got up in the air. You can't brake too well if the tires aren't on the ground. Right into the side of Sabo, and Sabo got the worst of it, unfortunately. That is heartbreaking for Elias, who had a podium run underway and nearly had it completed. Race winner, George Kurtz. He'll be your pole sitter tomorrow as well. CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race to Mr. CrowdStrike himself. 206.327. Only driver to hit the 206s today.
Yeah, it's
that
a huge
was domination.
win. When we talk about the points, the fact that Gidley was out of the points in P11. Yep. So that's like George winning 3 races in a row with Gidley finishing second behind him.
That's
right.
You
know what I mean? So it's a big, big day.
Big day as well in GT4 for Ross West, his partner in the team and co-driver in Pirelli GT4 America, Aaron Povoleto. He's going to have a huge smile on his face. He's so proud of the development that Ross has shown. That championship run last year, frankly, he kind of came out of nowhere, sweeping the weekend at IMS. His only wins of the season came coming in the final 2 races of the year, but it was enough to win the title. But he's not under the radar anymore.
No, and that boosted his confidence, and I think Aaron, as the team leader, really, they just went away, really focused on a lot more of the technical stuff. He said, we had speed, we just needed to be more consistent. They invested in some new setup equipment and everything else, and now they know every time they put the car on the racetrack what they have underneath them, and I don't think they quite had that last season.
No, you're right. That brings back to mind a conversation I had with the pair of them at St. Pete at the beginning of the year. They invested in time on a shaker rig, 7-post rig, to really work through some of the suspension settings on the car, and they did some back-to-back tests of setups from last year and setups that they got from the rig, and it made a huge difference. We've seen that play out this year. Results from race 1, at least provisionally. Kurtz, Daskalos, Safronis, that is your podium in SRO 3. Best finish of his career for Todd Trefford up there in 4th, and Bartone a very fighting 5th position. Johnny O'Connell from the pole will have to settle for 6th. GT4, though, it was all about Ross Schwest after Jason Bell had that issue late in the race. Not the first time this season that we've seen him have a lead or at least a good position late, and then something just didn't quite go according to plan.
Yeah, that's going to be a big blow for him. I mean, he'll be kicking himself if it was his mistake. I mean, if there was a sudden technical failure, I don't know. But it's very bizarre to be that high offline with everything locked up. Typically, when you feel that happening, you just release the brake and roll through the corner with the runoff room that the track provides.
Rob Holland finished on the podium, at least on the road. We'll see what the stewards think about the contact. It must be noted, Rob, a veteran driver, a very clean driver. The stewards will have to decide about that. You can see the big smile there on the face of George Kurtz, and Amanda is there to talk to him.
Where were you?
Hey, George, congratulations on the win here, making it over to the winner's circle. It is race number 7 that we are here in this season. You look at this championship, you come in as the defending champ. Is there still enough time in this season left to turn it around?
We'll see. You know, we just want to have good races every race. We had a slow start because we got caught up in an incident in St. Pete, so that kind of set us behind. But the only thing we can do is show up and do the best we can. And we had a great showing. The CrowdStrike Rally guys gave us a great car, and you know, we really showed what we could do.
Congratulations, George. We're still waiting on Ross Schwest making it into the winner's circle, but congratulations to the CrowdStrike Mercedes.
I hope to hear from Ross in just a moment, but yeah, big win there. First win of the season for George. St. Pete was a disaster. Not classified in race 1, only finished 8th in race 2, but since then has finished no worse than 4th.
Yeah, I mean, and he's got back into his routine, and you know, it's a big day, as you said, with Gidley struggling. He'll be loving life looking at the points since this morning.
There is Ross Schwest coming out of the car, celebrating a race win that did not look like it was headed his way. He had a nearly 9-second gap to overcome with just over 2 laps to go. Then the issue that might have been ABS related, that's what Amanda says the team is speculating for Jason Bell. That's not confirmed, but he had his issue in turn 1. And Ross, hey, he was close enough to take advantage of it. As Ross gets that helmet off, I'm sure he's eager to speak to our own Amanda Busick. Amanda?
Oh, and sometimes it's just being at the right place and right time. And Ross, the guys have been talking about how you and Jason over these last couple seasons, it's almost like you guys can't escape each other. I'm not sure if you saw Jason lock up, but if you did and when you did, how much energy did that give you to head to the checker?
Well, yeah, Jason's a great driver, you know, so we have a lot of great battles. Just saw a lot of smoke going into 1. The first thing I thought was possibly a car was on fire, so my first thoughts were hopefully it's not a fire, and if it is a fire, hopefully everyone's okay. And then when I saw it was Jason, it didn't seem to be a fire, then I was a little relieved.
When you look at this championship, and I was talking to Aaron Povolato earlier as well, you guys and GT4 as well, it's possible you could win 2 championships. Where have you come into your own in the last couple seasons?
Well, yeah, it's still early on. We're sitting nice as it is now. We just take it one day at a time, one race at a time, one corner at a time, and we keep grinding hard away at it. The team does a great job. Everyone on the Schwest Povolato team does an amazing job, so it makes our job much easier.
Nice job, Ross.
Thank you.
Third win this season extends the points lead. The former Division I basketball player, Ross Schwest, with another strong finish here this season. You extend that points lead. By the way, CrowdStrike fastest lap belongs to this car. CrowdStrike car, fittingly enough. George Kurtz, he'll be the pole man for tomorrow's race, the second of 2 here this weekend. Got it done from the outside of the front row today, starting on pole tomorrow. Everyone else has got to be scratching their heads. What can they do to catch up to this CrowdStrike by Riley car?
Yeah, just really super strong and big points day, and he's got a fast car, so he'll be tough to beat tomorrow as well.
Prove that today. But these teams will go to work overnight, make some changes. We'll see what tomorrow brings. First, though, a look back on the first race of the weekend. Johnny O'Connell from pole from the Ski Autosports team, able to lead the field through turn 1 for the first time.
Yeah, a little slide there coming off, and Johnny Red got the attack here from Daskalos. It was a big moment. There's a little bump in the road there that unsettles Daskalos a little bit, enough to get him in the side of O'Connell, who continues. And then there was drama here with Sabo just really going hard with it. With he and Schwest, he had a spin later on.
This was a great battle here between Schwest and Sabo. Good battle here as well. Safronis and Daskalos. Daskalos as aggressive as ever, able to pry second place away out of the fingers of Safronis, who had his hands full to hang on to that third spot. Side by side here, Bartone and Todd Trefford. 2 rookies, not driving like rookies today.
No, it's fantastic. This is unfortunate here. Holland making the move inside of Sabo and just runs over that curb, loses the front end and taps. Sabo turns him around.
Likely will cost both a good result today. Meanwhile, at the very front, a dominant win, first of the year for George Kurtz. Crowd strike by Riley. This was the sprint to the checkered a little bit further back. Second, third, fourth, and fifth, all finishing neck and neck in the first of 2 races for us this weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Thanks so much for joining us for Race 1. Hope you join us for Race 2. For Amanda and Cal, my name is Ryan. So long from Austin, Texas, and Circuit of the Americas.